Sionagad, Monique Dawadoa. Hello, everyone. My name is Monique Ortman, and I'm a Cherokee Nation citizen living on and benefiting from the ancestral lands of the Osage, Kiowa, Wichita, Shawnee, and Kickapoo tribal nations in Harrah, Oklahoma. I received my Bachelor's of Fine Arts from and currently teach graphic design at the University of Central Oklahoma. This work was started while working on my thesis for a Master's of Fine Arts in Graphic Design from the Vermont College of Fine Arts, where I graduated from last month. My thesis work holistically explores the visual language of my Cherokee identity through the weaving together of graphic design, food sovereignty, and traditional craft methods. My daughter is the main reason I started this work. Culture is lost if we do not pass it on to our children. This represents my experience of fusing traditional Cherokee arts and crafts methods with my own techniques. By exploring the visual language of Cherokee traditional crafts, this work culminated in a typeface named Kamama, which aims to aid language preservation through a typographic vehicle. We have fewer than 2,000 first language speakers left, and it is up to each Cherokee citizen to help preserve our beautiful language. By redefining graphic design, I find it provides an entry point and framework for others to understand my design practice and work. My definition of graphic design is that it is an ancient craft dating back to the creation of Turtle Island. Before our written Cherokee language was invented by Sequoyah 200 years ago, our ancestors used graphic design to communicate our most treasured creation stories. Many of our pre-contact artifacts found in caves, burial sites, and our ancient cities, including shell fragments bearing symbolic carvings or logos that relate to our spiritual beliefs, creation and origin stories, and everyday life. Since time immemorial, we have relied on visual communication to convey ideas and messages and to document our histories. We use similar methods of communication today, including logos, typography, crafts, and colors. We cannot ignore our historical use of graphic design when designing for current and future generations. We must interweave historical and contemporary practices to honor the past and preserve the future. Much of my work revolves around questions like, how can I make my ancestors proud and how can I honor them? I'm learning to include our language, teachings, and ceremonies in my everyday life, along with my graphic design practice. My mother was in the Air Force while raising me, often as a single mother, and we moved around the globe every 4 years. Because of this, opportunities to learn and connect to Cherokee culture, excuse me, were slim, and I rarely got to spend time with family. We moved back to Oklahoma in 2004. This video was made to honor all of my ancestors and the women in my family and reflects both the emotional and physical journey I've taken towards reconnecting my family to our culture since my daughter was born 12 years ago. The Cherokee women in my maternal line sacrificed so much, and our continued bloodline is a testament to their sacrifice and willingness to survive. Making trips back to our ancestral homelands in North Carolina, as shown in this video, is always an emotional and reflective experience for me. I cannot help but think about all that my ancestors survived and what their lives looked like before forced removal. As a way for me to connect to them, I have made space in my practice that allows the freedom to include our crafts and honor my ancestors. I want to touch and make the same things they did. I have learned much more patience and how to slow down and focus on one task by connecting to my ancestors through these traditional crafts. Making trips to both Cherokee reservations as a graphic designer has also allowed me to see our homelands through a different lens, documenting where and how our writing system is used, and how our culture has survived and is celebrating through the visual language of our arts and crafts. I could not fully embrace my Cherokee culture without first addressing just how colonized I was. My definition of decolonization is embracing and enforcing tribal sovereignty by rejecting colonial constructs that have long controlled our cultures, languages, communities, land, food, spirituality, and governments. Colonial constructs and thoughts can sneak into our minds and lives, whether we realize it or not. I make efforts to decolonize my daily actions and thoughts by asking specific questions about all aspects of my life, including my parenting and teaching methods, academia, and politics. I find I can make small steps towards understanding and changing just how colonized I unknowingly am by asking questions such as, how would my ancestors view this? Who does this benefit? Who does this include? And who does this exclude or discriminate against? Food sovereignty is close to my heart and is a common theme throughout my work. The last 5 generations of Cherokee women in my family, including myself, have all raised children as single mothers for varying amounts of time. Learning how to grow our own food is something that has been passed down through generations as a mean of survival and connection to our culture. I am incredibly thankful to have access to our traditional seeds from the Cherokee Nation Seed Bank. In my making, I enjoy looking at these plants from a macroscopic and microscopic view to find ways to visually celebrate my favorite Cherokee foods. Basket making is how I connect to my grandmother. She passed away during the pandemic and suffered from Alzheimer's for over a decade. She had a basket for everything in her house, and sometimes she had baskets for her baskets. To me, they represent that feeling of home. I love how our baskets are both beautiful and functional, whether they are from pine needles, round reeds, or river cane flat reeds. Basket making has turned into a passion for myself and my daughter. Her first basket is on the far right. Through traveling, through traveling to our Cherokee Nation reservation in Oklahoma, to our ancestral homelands, and to the Eastern Band Reservation in North Carolina, I was able to document and fall in love with our beautiful river cane baskets and the many uses they serve. I photographed the above images at the Qualla Arts and Crafts Gallery in Cherokee, North Carolina. The skill and math required to make these baskets is impressive, and it's still something I struggle with. Much of my work so far takes the format of our woven mats, as they can translate to a poster format easily. Though the same basic principle of weaving is shared between our mats and baskets, I struggle to form the walls of a basket, but I have plans to take more classes soon. In addition to respecting the cultural importance and personal relationship I have with baskets, I've grown a deep appreciation for the graphic patterns woven within them. Trey Seals from Vocal Type gave a How Type Works workshop at VCFA last spring, which provided a great framework for how I could approach the development of an English or Roman letter typeface. He had a simple prompt of designing a typeface based on something from our culture. I designed a typeface in English at first so that I could develop a solid system in a language I'm more fluent in before moving on to the Cherokee syllabary. I have no plans to carry on with the English starting point. This work was done in conjunction with taking Cherokee language classes provided by the Cherokee Nation Language Department with Mr. Ed Fields. I was struggling to read and write in the syllabary and thought type design would provide more opportunities for me to memorize our written language. I hacked the process that Trey Seals provided during his workshop for our syllabary. This typeface is inspired by and made for our basket and mat weaving. In Cherokee, Kamama means both butterfly and elephant. Our language reflects the perspectives of our ancestors who had never seen an elephant before and had no word to describe it. They noticed the elephant's ears resembled butterfly wings, and according to lore, that's why they share the same name. I named this typeface Kamama because it reflects both our past and our future through its weaving and digital applications. It is my hope that this traditional basket pattern meets 8-bit typeface appeals to and is used by both our elders who weave and our younger generations to keep our language alive. How could it be, or how cool would it be to speak to future generations through heirloom baskets by giving them a voice? I have not turned this into a working or published typeface just yet, as I'm still adding additional glyphs, and I'm considering adding in punctuation. Much of the kerning for this works with a 1 read or pixel spacing, though there are a few characters that work best with a negative 1 read or pixel spacing. Thanks to the guidance of Cherokee basket weaver Matthew Anderson, I learned that while this typeface will work in our river cane baskets, anything longer than 7 reads or pixels, illustrated with the white box on the right, starts to diminish the integrity of our basket walls. I hope to design another font that shortens the length a little bit of my original type system grid, which is 11 reads by 12 reads. And once I figure out how to weave using our diagonal weave patterns, I hope to make another font for that application as well. Within this typeface, there are storytelling glyphs, weave patterns designed to also keep our traditional stories alive. The water spider on the left is from our first fire story. The serpent pays homage to our traditional basket pattern that has been modified to include a head, and the fish skeleton is a play off of our fishbone pattern. The frog weave pattern in glyph was designed to keep my grandmother's memory alive. In addition to her large basket collection, excuse me, frogs were another passion of hers, with frog themed everything around her house. Natalie Standing Cloud, a Cherokee tattoo artist and actress, collaborated on my original pattern and helped me make her memory permanent through this tattoo. These digital patterns and prints combine both traditional weave patterns and my own glyph designs. These will eventually be woven into mats or posters. And then this is a woven, excuse me, woven Cherokee droid mat prototype. I've been working on a series of glyphs to include in this typeface that combine my family's love for Star Wars into Cherokee weave patterns. Through prototyping, I learned that I need to increase the scale of my glyphs and add more details for them to work in the woven mat application. My daughter has been very excited about this addition and has been trying to weave her own Cherokee words and designing her favorite characters in this style as well, which is what this is kind of all about. One of my favorite things about this typeface is that it can be used across many mediums, in addition to our traditional basket and mat weaving. This application mixes laser engraved acrylic and screen printing ink, creating both rough and reflective surfaces for my thesis book. This book was designed to be passed down to my daughter and includes seeds for a Three Sisters garden, gourds, and sacred tobacco. This woven sketchbook features my Kamama typeface and means yes in English as a way to motivate me to sketch more. Before moving on to commercial dyed reeds, I usually start my prototyping process with paper strips as they are more affordable and easier to access. My goal is to weave a book cover with either commercial reeds or river cane in the future, now that I have a rough idea of how to construct the covers for a book with paper. And then right now, I'm currently working on a woven type specimen mat using commercially dyed reeds, as I do not have access to river cane. This weaving pattern has taken a lot longer than anticipated while trying to figure out how each syllable can be woven in a way where the reeds won't pucker out from lacking an interlocking reed nearby. So total respect to our ancestors and those that still weave these mats today, because it's been kind of frying my brain figuring all the math out. In addition to this mat, I hope to take this typeface into actual basket making and animation or motion design in the near future. And while I would love to share, excuse me, this research and personal journey with my Native students, the harsh reality is that I could be fired for it. In Oklahoma, where I live and teach, the line between religion and politics gets thinner and thinner every day. While doing this research over the last 2 years, Oklahoma has enacted a prohibition of race and sex discrimination law. This law could lead to my termination for discussing this work in the classroom, as it could cause an individual to, quote, feel discomfort, guilt, anguish, or any other form of psychological distress on account of his or her sex, end quote. Under the general prohibition section of this law, it prohibits the teaching or discussion of anything that results in the sections shown. This law is vaguely written and has turned into a witch hunt against educators seeking their termination should any parent or student raise a complaint. This law applies to schools that receive state funding, including public universities and colleges. This is another form of erasure of our histories and lived experiences. Representation of BIPOC and LGBTQ+ communities in education is vital, and it's under attack. One way people can help support our communities is to fight for these laws, which are catching on in other states, to be abolished and prevent them from ever being passed. And through this work, I feel balanced, as all aspects of my identity have now been woven into my design and teaching practice. This has led me to course curriculum design, which will hopefully result in a cultural design class, making space for the identities and cultures, whether inherent or social, of the design students I teach. I would like to say a big wado to everyone who has helped me while on this journey, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.